Hey, good morning, guys. I'm going to be changing pace just a little bit here in the shop, and I'm going to do a project that I've been kind of putting off since late last spring. And what I have to do, or what I want to do, is I want to make a collet. This is a bullet pulling collet. This one is for 338 caliber, but I need to make one for 30 caliber. And you would think that that would be something that would be fairly common. And it used to be, but I tell you, RCBS, and this is their bullet pulling system here, has been out. These have been the 30 caliber collets have been back ordered since late last spring. I'm tired of waiting. The reason I had the 338 collet is I loaded a bunch of 338 Win Mag up, I don't know, about 6 years ago. And when I finished them, I put them in a case guard. I put the case guards in a metal military ammo can. And there they sat. And last spring, I was just pulling them out, dusting off the tops, because everything in this shop gets dusty. So I popped the case guard open, but this is what I found. If you look close, you can see a little ring of green corrosion around the tip of that bullet, and the white polymer tip is missing. So I got on the phone with Nosler, who makes the AccuBond, and did discover that 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, they had a problem with the bonding agent that they used to bond the copper jacket to the lead core on the AccuBond bullets. And they made right on it. I mean, I didn't expect it 7 years after the fact, but the guy I was talking to, their technician, once he assured me that the problem had been corrected, and I trust Nosler, they make great products. He asked me how many rounds we were talking about, and I told him 100. He said, okay, you've got 2 boxes of 225 grains on the way. So I'm going to pull these old bullets, and I'm going to use a collet only because I want to be able to unseat the bullet in my press, keep the powder and everything as is, and just reseat a new bullet and be ready to go with them. And I'm going to pitch the old bullets. A collet is designed to pull a bullet and preserve it so you can reuse it, but it's also a nice, neat way of doing it to where you don't have to upset your powder charge and remeasure and anything like that. So that's why I chose a collet for that. And at the same time, I thought I would order a 30 caliber collet for these 308s. Now, I had purchased a 700 Remington about that same time, and I loaded up 5 different test rounds to find a load that rifle liked. And I lucked out, and I found a load that I really liked on the very first run. I shot 2 5-shot groups at 300 yards and was real happy with the results. So all the rest of those test loads I really don't need. So what I want to do is pull the bullets and put the powders back in their respective containers, because everything is marked and documented, and then just duplicate that good load times all these test loads that I have. So for that, I do need a collet. Well, there's the problem. I've been trying since last spring to purchase a $12 collet from RCBS, and it's just nowhere to be found. The one I found on eBay, the guy wanted like $85 or $90 for one collet, and I'm not going to do that. The guy's just gouging. So I'm going to make one, and I got to looking at the geometry of this collet. They're similar to 3C collets for a lathe or a milling machine. The outer dimensions, the taper and all that are the same, collet to collet. The only difference is the size of the bore, and these are caliber specific. So just looking at the differences between this bore and the actual 338 thousandths for this bullet, I took a small hole gauge and I went down to the very bottom of the bore just to make sure I got an accurate measurement, because there might be some spring open because of these slits they cut to make the fingers. So I went down to the root of the bore. You can see where it stops in there, and I measured that, and it is 345 thousandths. That's a difference of 7 thousandths over the 338 that this will close to. So that's a pretty good tolerance there. So to make one for 308, which is 308 thousandths, I decided that a 5/16 collet would be what I needed essentially to make. So if you look at this 5/16 5C collet, the idea of these collets is to let the bullet enter and then stop right at the case mouth. So all you're gripping is the projectile. And then you can pull it with your press. So 5/16 is a good size. It's a size I have tooling for. I think it's going to work. The difference is 4.5 thousandths. So while there's not as much slop, there is ample room to get the bullet up in there and tighten the collet and then have it release when you loosen the collet. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'd never looked into these. I figured for whatever reason that this is all going to be metric threads and everything. But it isn't. Drawbar is 3/8/16. And this outer body will fit neatly into a 9/16 collet for when I manufacture it. And it just so happens that 3/8/16, well, for a 16th, that's the tap drill size for 3/8/16. So when I take this piece of 01 drill rod and start machining it, when I get to the part where I'm going to drill through, this is an end drill, so I'm going to drill that all the way through, and then I'm going to ream to 5/16, and I'll be at my tap drill size to going from the other end for the threads. And there's a couple of important things about here. There's a little bit of a lead-in chamfer that I'm going to duplicate. There's a counterbore back here with a nice chamfer. I think that's just for clearance. And then I've got my thread depth all measured and the bore depth measured. So I'm going to start on that. And then I'm going to heat treat it because you want these fingers to have some memory to spring back to release the bullet. So after we make this, we'll foil wrap it, we'll heat treat it, and we'll see how it works. But yeah, I just ran out of patience. I understand what's happening in the firearms industry now, and people are wanting everything. And like I said, I gave them plenty of time to get something back in stock, and it just hasn't happened. And I think as they get them in stock, they're so back ordered that they're just disappearing. So I have a machine shop. I'm going to make use of it, and I'm going to make a collet. So I'm going to bring you guys along. And the next thing you see is going to be over at the lathe where we have this chucked up in a collet, and we're going to start manufacturing this thing. Let's see how it goes.